Hello, and thank you for watching my video. This is Ken QC with an unboxing of the Nikon 1J4 with the white 30 zoom lens. It's the 10 to 30 millimeter zoom lens, 3.5 to 5.6, a PD zoom they call it. So this is Nikon 1J4. This one is a big upgrade. It's got an 18.4 megapixel processor. It also has Wi-Fi built in, a touch screen. And let's take a look and see what's inside. See how this is, how easy this is? That's why you can tell this is a fresh unboxing. Here we go. All right, the first thing I find here is our warranty information. 5 years of protection, it says here. I like that. I also see here View NX2 along with some paperwork. Looks like an instruction manual. Probably want to read that. Put this out of the way here. All right, let's see what comes in the box. First thing I see is a nice Nikon strap. Now this is a smaller camera and most people would probably want to go with a wrist strap instead of like this neck strap. But you know, it's totally up to you. A lot of people use aftermarket products. Of course, Nikon wants you to use the Nikon branded product, but that's okay. I'll put that over there. This is a wall charger. What's nice about this, it plugs into the wall. You can take the battery out of the camera and plug it in. You have a second battery in the camera, so you always have a battery in waiting. Also comes with a USB cable. So because this is a Wi-Fi enabled camera, I probably won't use this cable much, except you might need to use it for any kind of firmware update. So I'm certain that tomorrow when I get a chance, I'll have to do some firmware update, because most of the time when you get a camera, it's the original firmware and you need to update it. So always go to the manufacturer's website, or there might be some paperwork in here that says, hey, go to www.nikon1j1 whatever to find that firmware. But always update your firmware, because sometimes it enhances the ability of your camera. For example, the Samsung NX Mini that I'm filming this on, when I bought it, the first day I plugged it into the computer, it had a firmware update. In fact, when I was downloading pictures, it said, oh, hey, there's a firmware update. And I did that, and I'll tell you what, the camera works a little bit better, has a couple other features that it didn't have originally. And let's see what's in here. This is, I got the white one in case you couldn't tell. You know, most of the cameras, I have a red Fujifilm XF1, which I really love because it's got like a leather or leatherette look. But this one's a white one. Let's just take a look here. And you can see this lens, and some of my peers on YouTube have said that this is kind of a plasticky lens, but it's got a good feel for it. And what's nice is it's got this little built-in door, so you don't really need like a lens cap for it. This opens and closes depending on when the lens is turned on. But here, let's go for the reason, the piece de resistance. Oops, forgot there's a battery in here. Probably can't get too far without a battery. What I like about Nikon too, and sometimes I see this, sometimes I don't, but I like this cover over the elements that connect to your camera. It just tells me that they're looking out to make sure that there's no, I think if you get dirt or grime on this connection, you're going to have battery issues and other issues, and that carries on into the camera. So they do this to keep it a little bit more clean. But here's the camera, and let's put this box over here. I've got a cluttered table today, I'm sorry about that. Now let's leave the box here because it blocks off my lenses. I'm selling some Sony lenses on Craigslist right now. The reason is I sold my A57. I made the commitment last night, actually, when I sold the Sony A57. I made that commitment that I'm going to only shoot mirrorless and smaller pocketable cameras, because what I found is with the A57 was the best camera I ever owned, but what happened is it sat in my closet. Meanwhile, my XF1 and my Samsung Mini, NX Mini, were used every single day or every other day, or 95% of the time. My dad came up from upstate New York to visit me here in Phoenix, and I was able to bring my XF1 out. We went to some different sporting events, and my camera was in my pocket every day. We took a few pictures here and there, and I'll tell you what, it's so much easier when there's a camera in your pocket versus having to put something around your neck that weighs 10 pounds, having to switch out lens all the time. But I'll tell you this though, having little lenses, so my my Samsung NX Mini. I got the 9mm pancake on here. I'm going to get the 17mm f1.8 eventually, and I'll probably even get the zoom lens, the 9-27. But because the lenses are small, you don't mind putting them in your pocket. And this too, this here, Nikon, small camera, but it's interchangeable lenses. So I think that's really that's the way to go with smaller cameras with interchangeable lenses. And I really like that mentality. That's the logic for Ken. Ken's going to commit to that strategy. So I'm going to take the body cap off here. And you can see this is a pretty good size. It is the 1-inch sensor, 18.1 or 18.4 megapixel. I'll tell you what, Nikon has stepped up the game. When this camera first came out, it was a 10.1 megapixel. And I had one. I had a Nikon 1J1. And I'll tell you what, 10.1 megapixels is plenty. In fact, the best Sony A7 cameras, a couple of them are only 12 megapixel cameras. But I'll tell you what, I'll put it up against any camera, full frame, APS-C size sensor. It's not about megapixels, it's about the sensor size and about the technology that goes into the processor and into the sensor. And you know, people like Fuji, Nikon, Sony, they're doing their best to improve. In fact, from what I understand, the Nikon sensor here is really a Sony sensor. I think Sony is really on the forefront along with Fuji and Olympus and Panasonic. Those are the companies that are leading the race in getting better cameras. Unfortunately, the mentality of photographers is, oh, I gotta have a Nikon or a Canon, Nikon or Canon. And you know what? They're fantastic products, but when you compare them to these products that are much more innovative, really, there's no reason for you to buy a Nikon or excuse me, a Canon or a Nikon APS-C or full frame camera when you've got this technology here in the smaller Nikon or Sony, whatever, that will probably, maybe the pictures, the pixel peaks will find a better, a little bit difference. But in all honesty, 99.9% of people are taking photos with smartphones. This is what, 20 times the size or 30 times the size of a smartphone's sensor. So really, this is going to be fine. So let's put that lens on. Gonna line it up here. I've got a little thing here to line it up with, don't I? Yes, 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 yes. And there it is. Pretty sharp looking camera. Now you can see here, and I'll put the battery in eventually, but you've got a pop-up flash, which will pop up when I put the battery in it. It's got the mode dial. The mode dial is interesting. It doesn't have but 5 different choices. A lot of what you're going to do on this camera is going to be menu driven, and when this first came out, it was not a touchscreen. Now that was a real problem because when you had only a couple mode dial options, you were constantly using your fingers on a variety of things. With the touchscreen, I think you're seeing a lot more opportunity for easier navigation. So let's put that battery in because I want to be able to show you some of the other features of this camera, and this hopefully has some charge into it. But you can see here, a nice metal tripod mount, nice good size screen in the back, mode dial, you've got the play button menu. There's also a quick menu button. Here's a trash can to delete photos. So let's open this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here. Let's line this up here. And of course, the first time I always put it in the wrong way. And that's the wrong way. Yep, I do that on purpose, just to see if anyone's paying attention. Maybe that was, no, that is the right way here, this way. Okay, it's in. And now, the interesting thing about the Nikon is they use the micro SD, which is fine. So let me make sure I put that in properly. And I did, look at that. And let's see if this camera powers up. And it does. So the first thing you see, of course, is the dial says, okay, English. So I'm in America, so I'm going to choose English. And it's going to want to know my time zone. So I'm in Phoenix, so let's go over to the Phoenix. Oh, Denver, Phoenix, let's go with that one. And what's the day, month, and year? Well, let's figure out that the day is... Well, let's go back on that. Alright, so it's 2015. It's February. What is it, the 6th today? And Yes, we'll just call it 2100. And I'll change that clock later. And up it pops. Okay, live image control. Pretty nice. So what I love about this is, as you can see here, I can configure. Look at that. Look how quick that is to take a photo. I love it. Alright, so you can see this flash. And what I like about this flash, you can articulate the flash with your hand. And what I find is, especially on non-professional flashes, that you don't have some distance between the camera lens and the flash, if you try to shoot straight on, you're going to see a lot of washed out appearances. One of the things I liked about Fuji, they made a good effort to try to minimize the flash. They have a smart flash technology. I don't know that anyone else can duplicate what they offer, but Sony did this. I know that there's several cameras that do this, but I like this articulation, so I can bouncing the flash. Anyone that has some knowledge about cameras and photography will know that bouncing a flash or using a diffuser is the better way to do this. But what a sharp looking camera. Let's do this. Let's see here. Let me go over the camera in detail. So I see we got the flash, we've got the lens release button, we've got the little this is the light that comes on to help the camera focus. We've got the mode dial. We've also, like I said, so if we switch, let's see what starts. So this one is advanced movie mode. So you can do different types of things. So if I click on the quick menu, you've got things where I can change how I record my movie. So the HD, slow motion, fast motion, jump cut, and 4-second movie. Hit this little button here. I go back, scene. So I've got, I can go to the PASM. You know, you've got your program, your shutter, your aperture, and your manual. So right now it says it's 1/60th shutter speed, 3.8, ISO 6400. Now I'll tell you what, I'll be surprised if 6400 doesn't look real good. The technology today now is, it used to be, if you got past 800 or 1600 ISO, if you're not shooting in black and white, you're going to get grain and garbage and artifacts and noise and distortion. I'll tell you now, 3200 seems to be the norm. Better cameras go to 64, and I know Sony can go, you know, to 128,000 or some crazy number like that. Really nice though. So let's go back. Let's see if we can get back on that. Here's the regular menu. But that's on the smart movie mode. It's also got creative mode. Creative mode, if you click on here, it gives you different choices. You can change things, different colors. It's basically a color select option. Hit OK. But here, if you see here, as I'm changing, it changes this more into a monochrome look. And if I hit OK, it resets it. This is auto mode. It'll let your camera do everything itself. Best moment capture. So what this does is, and if I show you here, if I hit the play button now, no, that didn't work, but what it's supposed to do when you do best moment capture, it's supposed to take a series of photos, and I'll have to set that. It'll take like as many as 20 photos, and it'll save the best one that it thinks is best. And then this here is another function that I'll have to do some research on. Oh, but here, so right now I'm in macro. Exposure compensation. Hit OK. And then probably because of the, see how that different focusing. So I'll mess around with the camera more, but here we go. Let's take a look and see what it did. Isn't that cool? So you know in that Harry Potter film where they show a picture on the wall and then like there's a slight little move? This is basically in real life. You take this picture in this mode and it kind of just like is a little bit like a 1-second movie clip and then the still photo. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of things I need to check out on this camera, but anyway, this is just my introduction, the unboxing, just a brief little overview of the different modes. And again, I didn't go into great detail because you know what, I really need to read the manual. But this is just a great camera. I'm very excited to switch from, you know, using the DSLR or the DSLT to using the Samsung NX Mini, using the Fuji X-F1, and using the Nikon 1J4. And just to go over some different things here, this camera is just amazing, and I'm just amazed at how affordable cameras have become, because this technology 5 years ago would be like $5 grand. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. Thank you for watching my YouTube video, and I will do some follow-up. Hopefully I'll get some video from this camera. In addition, I will also try to get some stills from my Samsung NX Mini. I'm looking into what software. I'm not a good software person when it comes to movies. I've almost always done still photos. So once I learn to do some movies, I will go ahead and splice, because all the movies that I run pretty much are right out of the camera. There's no changes to them. I just basically fire and forget, stick them up on YouTube, and there I go. But in the next couple days, I'm going to get into some software editing and try to add some photos and some video samples, maybe even play around with an off camera mic. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. Have a great day, and thanks again. Ken QC signing off. Friday night. Tomorrow, big game. Arizona versus Detroit in hockey. The biggest rivalry for Arizona. Thank you. Bye.